I'm going to ask you this question. How do you rate the condition of the national economy right now? Very bad, fairly good, or very good?
Somewhere between fairly good and what was the second one? Slightly bad?
Fairly bad.
Yeah, I'd say the same.
So according to Civics right now, with 808,000 responses over the past 8 years, if you take a look at the latest developments from May of last year, 50% reported very bad. Currently, 40% say very bad, 28% say fairly bad, 26% say fairly good, 2% say very good. Only 2% say very good. Now, what do you think is going to happen if I sort this by political affiliation?
I think we all know.
I think everybody knows. So I'll start with independent. Among independent voters, 44% say very bad, 30% say fairly bad, and 20% say fairly good. So it's actually worse than all combined. Now, Republican, I think, is obvious. There we go. 70% says very bad, 25% fairly bad. Among Democrats, 50% say fairly good. Now, how can that be? That to me makes absolutely no sense when we're looking at $7 cabbage and $9 eggs.
Yeah, no,
I don't believe it.
I agree. I think inflation's horrible. I think inflation has definitely impacted things. I think that it was unavoidable given not just Biden's stimulus, and when he came into office, I did like a $1.2 trillion stimulus. Trump gave $3 trillion in stimulus or something like that as he headed out the door. And it's the Fed. The Fed kept rates low for 20 years. That's just adding all of this excess demand to the economy. And now they have to pull back. And when they pull back, it's going to cost us jobs. So I think that, yes, inflation's bad. I think if you take the United States economy, compare it to Europe, to Japan, to China even, I think we're doing remarkably better. And I think you got to compare it, because the situation we're in after COVID, I think the lockdowns affected things, the supply chain disruptions affected things, oil shocks from Russia, that affected things. I think that overall we're doing decent compared to the rest of the world. Very good compared to the best.
I do think people need to recognize Donald Trump was the president when we were doing a lot of this inflationary policy stuff during COVID, like a lot of the stimulus stuff that was going on.
Yeah, but I don't blame him. I
think Biden's last stimulus was probably too much, but also at the time, I don't think we realized that COVID was going to subside. We were going to get Omicron, and it wasn't going to be as bad of a strain. And things started coming back a lot faster than we expected. I think going back, I would say he shouldn't have done that last stimulus. I think that probably would have helped inflation somewhat. I honestly don't think it would have done more than maybe half a percentage point.
Were you guys in favor of Donald Trump giving out $2,000 checks?
Yeah.
Was that was a policy you guys agreed with? I didn't.
I
was like, what are you doing? Are you crazy?
Yeah,
it was like a UBI. Personally, myself, based on my principles and values, I was like, that's a little bit too much for me. And I think just spending money and printing money out of thin air has brought us to this very irresponsible place where we are, $34 trillion in debt?
Yeah.
That's not something that's feasible. That's not something we could get out of. That's something that our children's will be paying for if we're lucky, if the whole system doesn't crash, because we have essentially allowed some of the richest people in the world to enrich themselves while, of course, everyone else was screwed over. And when we look at the COVID years through the Trump years, he has allowed the largest transfer of wealth in recorded human history.